You can't make peace when someone has been so nefarious, in my opinion, so horrible. Everyone made out well.
Although it is common for Hollywood actors to form lasting friendships or even marriages, Sylvester Stallone and Richard Gere were never one of those couples. Their formerly cordial friendship swiftly deteriorated once they met paths on the set of 1974's The Lords of Flatbush. A severe and long-lasting animosity began when the two performers got into a furious argument, which ultimately led to Richard Gere's dismissal from the film. Gere has just now spoken out about his emotions for Stallone, after keeping the tale primarily under wraps for years. He was very forthright about his intense dislike of him and didn't sugarcoat his reasons. As we discover, come along with us in this video. Sylvester Stallone's early part in the 1974 film The Lords of Flatbush is the origin of Richard Gere's long-standing animosity toward the actor. Gere was originally supposed to portray the role of Chico, but Perry King ended up playing the role. Something unforeseen occurred during rehearsals, though, and that altered the course of events. A spilled condiment was the spark that ignited a larger conflict between the two performers. Richard Gere lost his role in the picture due to that tumultuous argument, which also, as it turns out, sparked a grudge that has persisted for more than half a century. Gere and Stallone never collaborated again. The beginning and conclusion of their working partnership were marked by that one film. While filming, the situation deteriorated further. In order to shoot a fight sequence, Stallone, who would later become famous for his roles in Rambo and Rocky, had to work alongside Gere, who would later feature in Pretty Woman. From his perspective, Stallone stated to Ain't It Cool News he crossed the line when asked about that incident. I encouraged him to relax when he reached out and grabbed me. But Gere was so engrossed in his role that Stallone couldn't help but comment, "He walked around in his biker jacket like he was the toughest guy on set." Gere's attitude was another point of contention between the two. Now, here is the part of the narrative where the title is truly justified. Because, shocking as it may seem, Richard Gere's animosity wasn't based on ego or acting alone. A mustard chicken sandwich was the deciding factor. In the vehicle, Stallone and Gere were enjoying their meal when he realized that Gere's sandwich was leaking. He cautioned Gere to exercise caution, but his words went unheeded. The sandwich promptly spilled upon Stallone a few moments afterwards. "I couldn't take it anymore." According to Stallone, he threw the man out of the car after elbowing him in the head. After that, things quickly deteriorated. When conditions on set reached intolerable levels, the director had to make a choice. The two performers were so incompatible that one had to leave. The actor Perry King ended up replacing Richard Gere after he was fired. Before production began, Gere was cut from the cast because he and Stallone couldn't stop bickering and weren't getting along. This had nothing to do with casting or performance. Finally, at that same moment, we learned the truth about Richard Gere's long-simmering resentment. We now see why he despised Sylvester Stallone so much. Is it possible that there are more fundamental causes that contributed to the underlying animosity between Sylvester Stallone and Richard Gere, now that we know why Gere loathed Stallone? Keep watching to find out. It appeared like Hollywood's A-listers were as captivated by Princess Diana as the general public was. Edward White's latest book, Diana World, An Obsession, delves at the ways in which the late Princess of Wales profoundly affected the British royal family and popular culture, enduring long after her untimely demise in 1997 at the age of 36. The book has an intriguing anecdote about what White calls the Diana effect. In this narrative, Sylvester Stallone and Richard Gere were at a party that Elton John was hosting in the 90s when they almost got into an altercation about Diana. David Furnish, Elton's spouse, was the first to provide this story. Stallone, who is now 78 years old, and Gere, who is 75 years old, were both approached by Fox News Digital for remarks about the incident. According to biography.com, Stallone allegedly told a fan, "complete fabrication," when asked about the claim on Instagram in the past. Talking to Fox News Digital, White said that the tale was also included in Elton's autobiography. Diana was also there at the house party he had invited Stallone and Gere to. Many famous people and royal families from Europe showed there because it was Elton John's house. They were both present, White stated. White elaborated, when Stallone caught Diana in the middle of a discussion with Richard Gere, it didn't sit well with him. According to Elton, Stallone arrived with the clear intention of charming Diana. Honestly, it was probably a long shot, but that seemed to be his plan. He allegedly became increasingly irritated as the night progressed. He got the impression that Gere was the center of her universe. Stallone lost his cool at some point, White remarked, citing Elton as an account. Things seemed like they were about to go physical when he approached Gere. Two macho stars behaving like rivals for a woman they had no chance with developed into this ego show, so they had to be separated. In his 2019 memoir, Me, Elton initially detailed the incident. He could still picture Gere and Diana, engrossed in their chat, sitting by the fireplace in that book. The mood of the celebration changed dramatically. While everyone else was chatting, Elton felt an uneasy vibe about the room. It was clear from Stallone's expressions that he was unhappy with Diana and Richard Gere's intimacy. Diana and Gere seemed instantaneously comfortable with one another, Elton said, adding, I suspect Stallone arrived to the party trying to flirt with Diana, only to learn someone had already grabbed her attention. Guests, with the exception of Stallone and Gere, filed into the dining room later on when supper was served. For their protection, Elton dispatched Furnish. Furnish came back with the two actors, but he was very distressed. A sickly look hung over him, as Elton recalled. According to Furnish, who proceeded to inform Elton about a situation, he had seen Stallone and Gere in a corridor, seemingly prepared to get into a fight over Diana. Luckily, Furnish intervened before things got out of hand, and the guys got back to their supper without any more trouble. Diana seemed completely unfazed by the entire affair, as Elton pointed out. The story of Tessa Baring, an employee of Barnardo's children's charity, is another entertaining and instructive anecdote. Stallone was extremely eager, almost aggressive, to sit close to Princess Diana at a meal in London, she said. Baring said that they wouldn't let Stallone sit next to Diana, as Edward White relates in his book. He was reassigned to sit alongside Tracy, a young girl who was previously sitting next to the princess. Diana handled the situation so elegantly and deftly that it stuck in Baring's memory. She accomplished the double feat of including the youngster in the interaction and making Stallone feel included. Diana got the opportunity to tease Stallone with some light-hearted, playful questions. In a light-hearted and endearing manner, she leaned over to him and said, "Tracy and I want to know if you're married." This kept the atmosphere light and pleasant, as if she were speaking on behalf of herself and the young girl. Could Richard Gere's animosity against Sylvester Stallone have been exacerbated by the allegations that began as a result of their strained relationship? Find out by continuing to watch. The urban legend that plagued Richard Gere. Richard Gere's removal from a film due to a mustard stain may sound ridiculous, but Sylvester Stallone appeared to have a problem with the underlying concept. Despite Gere's lengthy and fruitful Hollywood career, it appears that he and Stallone never reconciled. Actually, there's more depth to their conflict. Some have speculated that Sylvester Stallone was the one who suggested the bizarre and unsuitable plot involving Richard Gere and a gerbil. While Gere's film credits include hits like Chicago and Pretty Woman, he's also been the subject of an odd and maybe inappropriate rumor for quite some time. A rumor circulated in the 80s and 90s that Gere had to undergo emergency surgery after inserting a live gerbil into his rectum. According to the tale, the animal perished within him and the physicians were forced to remove it. Even though the story is horrifying, it gained such much cultural traction that it was parodied in Scream, a film by Wes Craven, and Saturday Night Live. There is no obvious motive for Stallone to fabricate the myth, despite the fact that some people think he did so. He had no further grounds to be furious at Gere, as he was not let out of his employment. Still, Stallone clearly remembered Gere's behavior from when they were filming The Lords of Flatbush. Few details concerning Richard Gere's thoughts on the altercation with Stallone and the gerbil story have been revealed. He mentioned the claim around 10 years ago, citing it as a reason why he avoids reading tabloid or gossip reports. According to an interview he gave to The Village Voice, which was published by Uproxx, he tries to avoid interviews like that. Following their altercation, many believe Stallone may have concocted the tale to smear Gere's reputation. The story has followed Gere for quite some time, even though Stallone has denied doing it. Both the bizarre gerbil myth and the brawl between Sylvester Stallone and Richard Gere remain unexplained. Despite their strained relationship since their dispute in The Lords of Flatbush, the two actors have each enjoyed successful acting careers. Yet, it is unlikely that they will ever reconcile. Expanding upon the precedent set by the first film, let's examine the plot and characters in further depth. In 1974, Martin Davidson and Stephen F. Verona helmed the comedic picture The Lords of Flatbush in the United States. Henry Winkler, Perry King, Paul Mace, Sylvester Stallone, and Susan Blakely are among the notable actors in the film. Stallone added his unique touch by penning more lines of speech. A gang of troubled youths from Brooklyn's Flatbush neighborhood, all of whom wear leather jackets, are the protagonists of this narrative. This film was instrumental in rekindling the public's interest in greaser culture of the 1950s and the 1970s, among other blockbusters such as American Graffiti, Happy Days, Grease, the musical and film, and the rock nostalgia group Sha Na Na. The film depicts the coming-of-age story of four hoodlums from Brooklyn, named the Lords of Flatbush in 1958. Day in and day out, these lads hang around at the neighborhood malt store, steal vehicles, play pool, and get into brawls on the street. Among the lads, Chico develops feelings for the elusive Jane and disregards the more outgoing Annie. Stanley, one of the members, is certain that he has gotten Franny pregnant, and she puts marital pressure on him. Stanley decides to proceed with the marriage despite discovering before, to the ceremony, that she was never pregnant. Butchie Weinstein is another example. He is an exceptionally bright teenager who, in order to blend in with his peers, puts on a show of complete foolishness. Because of his profound admiration for Stanley, the unflinchingly devoted Murgalo is asked to be best man at Stanley's wedding. All four boys begin to mature and confront adulthood by the film's conclusion. In the wedding scene, they shed their trademark leather jackets for sharp suits, symbolizing their transition into manhood. Richard Gere was originally supposed to play Chico, but he was kicked out of the production because of his persistent disagreements with Sylvester Stallone during dress rehearsals. Is it possible that Richard's personal life and acting career were impacted by these tensions? Keep watching to find out. From 1982's An Officer and a Gentleman to 2002's Chicago, Richard Gere was a huge star at the box office for over 20 years. Paramount reunited him and Julia Roberts for the sequel, Runaway Bride, over a decade after their stunningly effective chemistry in Pretty Woman. But then something changed. Gere started to lose her main part streak in major Hollywood pictures. Although this is a typical issue for females as they get older, Gere claims his is completely unique. He attributes Hollywood's decision to ignore him not to his age, but to something quite different: China. Gere, a devout Tibetan Buddhist and long-standing friend of the Dalai Lama, openly denounced China during the 1993 Oscars when he went off script while presenting an award. China is one of the biggest sponsors of Hollywood movies today, so the effect is substantial. There are definitely films I can't be part of, because the Chinese say, "Not with him," Gere acknowledged in a recent interview with The Hollywood Reporter. Just recently, someone told me they couldn't finance a film with me because it would upset the Chinese. Ever since Gere fearlessly brought attention to China's horrible, horrible human rights situation at the Oscars, he has been steadfastly committed to his initiative. He has been vocal in his criticism of China, his support for Tibet's independence, and his advocacy for a boycott of the 2008 Beijing Olympics. Gere acknowledges that even low-budget productions have been hesitant to employ him due to concerns about potential blowback from China's enormous influence, despite his consistent career as an actor in smaller indie films like Norman and The Dinner, which were released in April and May, respectively. We may look more closely at Richard Gere and Sylvester Stallone's early life and rise to popularity in the midst of their friction and competition. Were these disagreements the reason they were unable to achieve their goals? New York City's Hell's Kitchen area was the site of Sylvester Gardenzio Stallone's birth on July 6, 1946. His famous astrologer mother, Jacqueline "Jackie" Stallone, and her hairdresser father, Francesco "Frank" Stallone Sr., were both passionate about polo and had many salons in Maryland. He is the firstborn of their children. He was born to an American mother with French and Ukrainian Jewish descent in Washington, D.C., and an Italian father who emigrated to the U.S. in the 1930s from Gioia del Colle. Frank Stallone is an actor and musician, and Sylvester's younger brother. The full birth name of Stallone is Michael Sylvester Gardenzio Stallone, according to many accounts. His mother had wanted to name him Tyrone, after the actor Tyrone Power, but his father had other ideas and insisted on Sylvester. When he was a kid, he was called Binky, but he later went by Mike or Michael when bullied by other kids. His middle name, Gardenzio, is a variant of the Italian name Gaudenzio, and he frequently shortened it to Enzio. Stallone had difficulties during delivery. After inadvertently injuring a nerve with 2 sets of forceps, doctors were able to partially paralyze his lower left face, which affected his lip, tongue, and chin. This is what caused him to stutter and develop his signature sneer. He found solace in weightlifting and acting as a means to cope with the bullying he endured as a child. His mother was informed by a school counselor that Sylvester should be limited to basic tasks, such as operating an elevator or sorting machine. But Stallone aspired to greater things, to play the role of an actor and create his own stories. Stallone went through a period of boarding school and foster care when he was younger. He rejoined his family in Maryland when he was 5 years old. His father opened a beauty school in Washington, D.C., so the family moved there in the early 1950s. His mom started Barbella's, a fitness center for ladies, in 1954. When Stallone was 11 years old, his parents split. He remained with his dad for a while, but when he was 15, he relocated to Philadelphia to be with his mom, who had remarried. Stallone attended many prestigious high schools in the Philadelphia area, including Abraham Lincoln High School and Notre Dame Academy, as well as Charlotte Hall Military Academy in Maryland. Despite his notorious reputation, he was even chosen most likely to end up in the electric chair. During his time there, afterwards, he chose to attend Miami-Dade College. He attended the American College of Switzerland from 1965 to 1967. After moving back to the United States, he attended the University of Miami for 2 years, 1967's 1969, to study theater. But he dropped out before graduating. Stallone eventually earned a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in 1998 after he petitioned the institution to include his life experiences and acting credentials. His stage name changed from Mike Stallone until 1969 to Sylvester E. Stallone in 1970 and beyond. He had small roles in a 1968 drama called That Nice Boy and a 1969 low-budget picture called Horses, co-starring John Hertzfeld, both when he was a student at the University of Miami. The Party at Kitty and Studs, a 1970 softcore porn film, was Stallone's first major role. He took the job in a state of desperation after being forced out of his flat and enduring many days of homelessness. The pay was just $200 for 2 days of work. Before ever noticing a casting call for the film, he slept for 3 weeks at New York's Port Authority bus terminal. To cash in on Stallone's burgeoning star and his iconic nickname from Rocky, the picture was re-released as Italian Stallion. Stallone was also starring in Score, an erotic off-Broadway play that opened in 1971 and lasted for 23 performances before being turned into a 1974 film. Sasha Chak, Stallone's girlfriend and an aspiring actress who worked as a waitress to support them both, moved in with him to New York City. Some of Stallone's odd occupations include cleaning at a zoo and working as an usher at a theater, a job from which he was dismissed due to his illicit ticket sales. He devoted a lot of time to reading Edgar Allan Poe's writings in order to hone his technique. Stallone was contemplating retiring from acting by 1972. Unfortunately, he was not cast as an extra in The Godfather, despite his best efforts. He instead landed small parts in films like What's Up, Doc?, where he was frequently uncredited. 1972, with Barbra Streisand, in which he played a minor role. An agent saw Stallone perform in a friend's play and encouraged him to try out for the part of Stanley in The Lords of Flatbush, a picture shot sporadically between 1972 and 1974 owing to budgetary constraints. This was a watershed moment in his career. Stallone played a guy implicated in New York City urban terrorism in the 1973 indie film No Place to Hide, which was his first genuine major role. With Stallone in the starring role, the picture was reworked and retitled Rebel. Even the 1990 film A Man Called made fun of it. Big Boss. Stallone has largely little or uncredited parts in his early cinematic performances. He had a brief appearance in Mazash, 1970, Pigeons, 1970, Bananas, 1971, directed by Woody Allen, Clute, 1971, and The Prisoner of Second Avenue, 1975, in which he played a club dancer and a young guy who was robbed. In 1974, he landed his second big part in the film The Lords of Flatbush. In 1975, he had cameo appearances on TV series like Kojak and Police Story, and had minor roles in films like Farewell, My Lovely, Capone, and Death Race 2000. He supposedly had a role in Mandingo, 1975, but the film's editors decided to delete his sequences. Stallone soared to stardom after acting in the 1976 sports movie Rocky, which followed the underdog boxer Rocky Balboa as he faced off against heavyweight champion Apollo Creed. Stallone penned the initial draft of Rocky in just 3 days after viewing the Muhammad Ali versus Chuck Wepner bout on March 24, 1975. In spite of Stallone's subsequent denial of Wepner's influence, the latter went ahead and sued him, leading to a private settlement. The 1956 film and Rocky Graziano's 1955 autobiography, Somebody Up There Likes Me, may have served as further sources of inspiration for the picture. Stallone insisted on playing the main part himself, while trying to sell the script to many studios. Despite offering $350,000, producers Irwin Winkler and Robert Chartoff insisted on casting Robert Redford or Burt Reynolds as Rocky. Following some budgetary concessions, Stallone consented to sell, but only if he could star. Roger Ebert, writing about the premiere of Rocky, said that Stallone may follow in Marlon Brando's footsteps and become a Hollywood great. Rocky earned Stallone 2 Oscar nods that year, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Actor, among 10 nominations overall. In addition to Best Picture and Best Director, the picture also took home the trophy for Best Film Editing. The Smithsonian Institution showcased Rocky paraphernalia, and the film itself was subsequently inducted to the National Film Registry. Rocky was immortalized in a monument that was placed near the Philadelphia Museum of Art. The stairs outside the museum came to be known as the Rocky Steps after him. The International Boxing Hall of Fame also inducted the character Rocky Balboa. The 31st of August 1949 was the birth date of Richard Gere in Philadelphia. He was born into a family that included housewife Doris Ann, née Tiffany, 1924-2016, and insurance agent Homer George Gere, 1922 to 2023. Doris Ann was the first child, and Gere was the second. Starting in 1969 with productions of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. At Cape Cod's Provincetown Playhouse and Seattle's Repertory Theater, Gere went on to star in other professional plays. Soon, a rock opera by Scott Fagan and Joe Kukulis was his breakthrough performance in 1971. After only 3 performances, the Broadway production left the Ritz Theatre. The original 1973 London production of Grease included Gere on stage. In 1979, he won a Theatre World Award for his portrayal of a Holocaust survivor in the Broadway play Bent, making him one of the first famous Hollywood actors to portray a gay character. The mid-70s marked the beginning of Gere's career in Hollywood films. The Lords of Flatbush, 1974, originally cast him as the lead, but he was removed when an argument with Sylvester Stallone happened. He went on to star in Terrence Malick's Days of Heaven, a highly praised drama, and had a minor but significant role in Looking for Mr. Goodbar, 1977. The 1980 crime drama American Gigolo was his big break and catapulted him to stardom. An Officer and a Gentleman, 1982, a love drama co-starring Deborah Winger, cemented that triumph. The picture earned 2 Oscars out of 6 nominations and grossed approximately $130 million. In recognition of his performance, Gere got his first nomination for a Golden Globe. For the rest of the 80s, Gere was in a string of movies that bombed at the box office and had mixed reviews from critics. Internal Affairs and Pretty Woman, both of which were commercial successes in 1990, marked a significant return to his acting career and garnered him a pair of Golden Globe nominations. Among Gere's many successful films of the 90s were Summersby, 1993, co-starring Jodie Foster, Primal Fear, 1996, and Runaway Bride, 1999, in which Gere reunited with Julia Roberts, his co-star from Pretty Woman. In the 1997 action thriller The Jackal, he played the lead part of Declan Mulqueen, a former IRA agent who spoke with an Irish accent. The Sexiest Man Alive title went to Gere in 1999, according to People magazine. During that time, he was the lead in 3 critically acclaimed films: 2002's The Mothman Prophecies, 2002's Unfaithful, and 2002's Oscar-winning musical Chicago. He won his first Golden Globe for his role in Chicago. Her 2004 film Shall We Dancing was a dancing drama, and Gere was the lead, which also did well, earning $170 million throughout the world. But the book-to-film drama B Season, 2005, his subsequent feature, bombed at the box office. The Hunting Party, a 2007 thriller starring Jesse Eisenberg, Terrence Howard, Richard Gere, was about a journalist who reports from Bosnia. In the same year, Gere was one of 6 actors playing several Bob Dylan roles in Todd Haynes' I'm Not There, which also starred Christian Bale, Heath Ledger, and Cate Blanchett. The film was partially fictitious and was about Bob Dylan's life. The 2008 romance drama Nights in Rodanthe featured him and Diane Lane. Despite widespread negative reviews and inclusion on the Times list of 2008's worst films, the picture managed to gross over $84 million globally. Another notable fact about it is that it was his final big studio-produced picture. Gere has stated his belief that big studios have distanced themselves from him because of his outspoken political views, particularly about China, a crucial market for Hollywood. This is why he took on parts in indie films, which often garnered some of his most laudatory reviews. He received his fourth Golden Globe nomination for his portrayal of businessman Robert Miller in the 2012 film Arbitrage, for which he was well acclaimed. Notable reviews included one from Rolling Stone's Peter Travers, who called his acting too good to ignore and a powerful performance. In 2012, he received 2 honors: the Hollywood Film Awards Career Achievement Award and the Hamptons International Film Festival's Golden Starfish Award for Lifetime Achievement. The 34th Cairo International Film Festival had also presented him with an accolade in December of 2010, just a few years prior. In 2016, Gere starred in Joseph Ceder's political thriller Norman, a daring departure from his typical performances. He portrayed the role of a Jewish fixer named Norman Oppenheimer. According to Gere, the character embodied the annoying and needy aspects of ourselves. RogerEbert.com praised Gere's performance, calling it consistently, completely fascinating. And Variety thought it was excellent enough to warrant an Oscar nod. Gere is a talented musician, as well as an actor. He was also the guy behind the Pretty Woman piano theme and Runaway Bride guitar solo. He spent 3 months studying tap dancing for the 1.5-day shot he filmed in Chicago. As part of his preparation for his part as an officer and gentleman, he took up karate. Richard Gere has been hailed by several critics and media sources as one of the most accomplished performers to ever be nominated for an Academy Award. Let us know your thoughts on the circumstances surrounding Richard Gere's animosity towards Sylvester Stallone. How hopeful are you that they will be able to make amends and move on from their differences now, after all these years? Please share your thoughts in the space provided. We appreciate you taking the time to see this movie and hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. To view the next video and read up on your favorite celeb news, click here. Where we meet next.